what I would like to cover here is the fact that there are many, many things around printing, around digital printing, things which are obvious and others which are less obvious. And what I want to illustrate here is, as the title says, that digital printing is basically more than just printing. Even though what you are doing when you print digitally is you sell ink on a substrate. But there is much more behind, and I would like to open your eyes on what is behind. So when I have been asked to prepare this presentation for you, as usual, I try to kind of build the background. So what I would like to cover is a bit like what Bo was doing about the trends, the worldwide trends that I see. I have different slides, different perspective, but bottom line, we go in the same direction, no doubt. I will tell you a bit about what your customers can expect from a service of digital printing, a bit of sustainability, green, all this illustrated by a few cases, and obviously what's coming. When I started, I did as we all do, means we took a media to take some notes, but believe it or not, what I illustrate here with a paper and a pen is not exactly what I used. As all of you, when I start typing a letter, I use a computer and a mouse. Don't you? Yes? Who starts writing a letter with a piece of paper and a pen now? Raise your hand. Who does that? Who did not understand the question? All right, so you all understood. So it's a fact. The world is fortunately or unfortunately turning to digital. To illustrate this, I put there a few things which are part of the prehistorical era. Who amongst you know what this is? These black circles. All right, so let me rephrase. Yeah, I know. Let me rephrase differently. Can you still find them? Can you still buy them today? Beside in a collector shop? Beside in a collector shop? You do?
Yes, yes, in Sweden.
We need to talk. I'm looking for a few, so maybe you can help me, right? So, what about this yellow thing? Same thing. Difficult, huh? And what about newspapers? Still, we can, right? The point is that all this has moved as a transition through digital into new media. We are now using new media to carry this information. And this new media forced us even to use new devices to use this media. And believe it or not, there is no way back. In other words, this, you will not go back to carving stones with this in hand. And you know what? It's not the end of it. Think about it. Are you really using this material today, or are you using that one? That one is called a phone, as far as I know. I agree with you, it's called even a smartphone. And the fact that it's smart allows you to do photos, to listen to music, and to read your news, your emails, your newspaper, and everything. Is it good or is it bad? I don't know, but it's a fact. So the technology, the innovation, is pushing us to use different tools, and because of that, well, we find it simpler, easier, maybe cheaper, maybe greener, I don't know, but that's a fact. We are not going backwards, whether we like it or not. Now, the world is made of a lot of consumers. That's you and me in a supermarket. And you know what? Not only we have consumers around the world, we also have a lot of brands. And these brands are fighting each other to grab our attention. It would be nice and understandable and controllable if we had only 10 brands. But the point is that we have thousands of brands to choose from. An average of 45,000 SKUs in an average-sized supermarket. 45,000 products to choose from. So obviously, all of these brand owners are trying to capture your attention. What they want is to make sure that your eye and your hands and your money will go towards them and not to the product next door, or next on the shelf, I should say. So that's a fact. There is a proliferation of products to serve us as consumers, and each of them want to be different one way or the other. That's the second brand. So if I combine the two, sorry, this was the second trend. If I combine the two together, I find that in order to simplify the whole aspect of the brand interest to grab us as customers, maybe it's simple. Let's take this advantage of technology and let's move everything digital. Then it's easy, flexible, cheap, green. Yes, well, we can do for some of the goods. But I bet with you that spaghetti and tomato sauce will never be turned to bits and bytes. I wish so, at least. right? At least that we have something in the mouth to eat. So there are many, many, many places where there is no way that the innovation will change the good itself. But maybe the innovation will change the package. So that's where we can play a role. You can play a role, and digital printing will probably help you to combine the benefit of digital with the needs of these brand owners and you, us, as consumers. So let's see a bit how it works. One thing to realize is that we used to say a few years ago that there is a trend towards shorter runs of labels. Have you heard about this? That's probably why you invested in the digital press, by the way. But that's the conclusion of my session. So let me take it back. So you heard about the short run trends in labels. Let me tell you the truth. This is not true. The trend towards short run that we are talking about is actually a consequence of a demand for a brand owner to put a shorter quantity of products on the shelf. And it happens that you are concerned by the labels. Fine. But you know, brand owners, they also have boxes, they also have tubes, they also have flexible packaging that they want to deliver on the market in shorter runs. The fact that they don't do it today doesn't mean there is no need. It probably means that there is no technical solution to serve that. But there is clearly a need for all of these products, whatever they are, to differentiate themselves in the same way than the ones carrying a label. Is that a fair statement? I would expect a yes to this question. You better take notes. At the end, I'm asking questions myself, and you'll get a quote from me. So, all right. So let's go to the next, which means that brand owners, when they want to be successful, and for sure they want, what they do is that they need to get some information from the consumer in order to make sure that the consumer will buy this product, will be interested by the product. So it has to be attractive one way or another, either in shape or in color, whatever it is, or it has to show something where I find an interest. It could be a sport club, it could be something. So in this case, I would say it's more generic. In this case, you start to talk about the basketball fan of a given team. So suddenly you reduce the quantity that you put on the market to a point that eventually you could have some personalized product only for you. And I mean it, because I doubt 2 people would buy this pair of shoes. Maybe, who knows. But anyway, it means that for a brand owner, there is clearly a need to get the information from the consumer to understand what the consumer really wants and needs, and transfer this to eventually a digital printing possibility, because this will lead to some fragmentation. So how can this happen? Simply look at this lady. This lady has seen an advert or a sign in a supermarket. What the sign was saying there, it's a sauce shelf. So this lady apparently is into cooking, and she has an interest in sauce. So she saw a sign saying, give me a couple of minutes of your time, answer 3 questions, and get 50% discount on your purchase. Fair enough. So what was the request? The request was to use this slavery device, mobile phone, smartphone, scan the QR code, which is there, or a code, whatever, it happened to be a QR code. This links to a website somewhere, transparent to her, and she has access, and here are the questions. Do you prefer mango or banana? Do you prefer half a liter or quarter of a liter? Do you prefer glass or plastic containers? Click, 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 thank you, show this code to the cashier, and you get a 50% discount on the way out. Simple and easy. Now, what happened? For the brand owner, this lady has a tremendous value. It is not an anonymous person in the streets. This lady was about to buy sauce anyway, so she's captive. Her feedback is valuable, for sure. And so it means that next replenishment of the supermarket, her opinion will be taken into consideration. Why to put half a liter glass container in mango if nobody wants it? Fair enough. So the brand gains big time to use this digital connection. And then, think about her as a consumer. Next month, she will have an easier life. Because what she said was, I prefer quarter liter in plastic, for whatever reason. If 90% of the people voted for this as well, for sure there is no glass anymore. So it's good for the brand, it's good for the consumer as well. So it clearly means that there is a connection between a digital technology that was used to survey the user to a digital print afterwards, because this leads to more fragmentation. Digital is part of our world. We are in and it's in us. I'm sorry. That's reality. So, obviously, if you have a digital printing press, you do things today that you were not able to do before. It doesn't mean that what you did before was wrong. It's just that in the past, when we had your conventional machines only, you had to act in a certain way, in a certain mode. And there were a few concerns that you had, but everything ended up into the price per thousand. It's not exactly what your customer wants. Your customer, the brand owners, of course there is always negotiation. Of course there is always a debate between the supplier and the buyer. Fine, fair enough. But the point is that with a digital press, you can indeed position yourself differently. And instead of the cost per thousand, talk to your customer the total cost of the whole process of the program. Because if you deliver what he needs, when he needs, it's not the price per thousand which counts. It's the overall impact on his business which is important. Before, you were printing just in case. It's easy for you to let a flexo press run half an hour longer just in case the same order will come later. And again, that's fair enough. Nothing wrong with it. Just that actually what your customer today want is more just in time. He may order again, he may not. So you hold the burden of the extra cost and you take the risk, not him. So think about his need. Instead of printing static data, think or propose to him to do this different versioning. Think about the sample I showed you just earlier with this lady. So all this is doable with a digital solution. Just that your customers will never ask this from you if you don't tell them you can do it. So it's a matter of communicating properly what you can do. Think about the impact that it can have on the brand owner's business. To illustrate it, I take here a survey that was done by Labels and Labeling a few years ago. What they wanted to know there was, from brand owners' perspective, what was their wishes coming from their suppliers? What do they expect from their suppliers? As far as I know, you are the suppliers. So, look, what comes top of the list there is speed of response. Second is, help me to reduce my inventories, my brand owner. On demand. You know this marketing guys. Hey, I have an idea, please deliver. This type of, please deliver yesterday, usually. Help me to do some promotion. Mass customization, which I would translate in different versions. And number 6 there is short-run capabilities. Short-run capabilities. Do you know a technology which is good for short-run printing? Yes. Which one? You saw this presentation already? Yeah. Well, indeed, digital printing is good for their number 6 wish. Can I ask you to think out of the box? Say that you have a digital printing press today. You do, right? You have a digital printing press. You do. So you have one. If you talk to your customer, speed of response. Clearly with a digital press, to print 1,000 label now is much faster than to print 1 million. So the speed of response is granted for shorter runs. Reduce inventories. Deliver 1,000. You will save him the storage of these 1 million products. On demand, by the time you negotiate the price of the service, not of the print, but of the service, it's done, it's out. Promotion capabilities, that's the whole idea of digital printing. Being able to add things or to change graphics on the fly. Mass customization, as I said, version. Blue for Gothenburg and yellow for Stockholm, whatever. This kind of fragmentation. That's the whole idea of digital printing. And finally, you end up in shorter run, which a digital printing can do. So the bottom line is that you, having a digital press, you can serve the 6 top business issues that a brand owner is expecting you to help them to fix. Assuming they know you can do it, it's a perfect relationship, perfect connectivity that you have between your service and their needs. It's not me saying it, it's brand owners, right? So clearly it shows that there is a need for you to communicate what you can do in the same way you did in the past when you invested in conventional machines and we're going to your customer saying, hey, I can do this now, I just invested in the machine. It's the same thing here, just that now you don't talk about print only. You have to add the service environment, which is what you can see here on top. Does that make sense? I'm also expecting a yes to this one. Yes. Right. So I expect you tomorrow to start thinking and acting on this, right? So let's go a bit deeper into this understanding. I'm showing here a supply chain, a fake, fictive supply chain. But you could adapt it to anybody you want, even if eventually yours. What you see, what is underneath the blue line is a cost. What is above the blue line is a revenue. Mr. Nestle, Unilever, P&G, whatever, when they start developing a product, they start with the R&D of the product. Then they start thinking about the packaging of it, then the test of the market to make sure the yellow and blue version will work. Then obviously you fill the manufacturing lines, then the supply chain, the warehouse, whatever the supply chain needs, up to the moment where you put, or they put, the products on the shelf. In this case, up to that point, it was only cost. And out of these costs, some, illustrated here by the blue dots, are related to printing. That's your invoice. When they put the product on the shelf, then the revenue comes. And this revenue is coming from a generic product which has been produced and stored and distributed through the distribution channels. Up to the moment where they decide to stop the life of this product and they have some waste, the unsold. Again, you could match these to, it's a conceptual diagram, but you could match it to anything. Imagine that you can deliver on demand, just in time, the quantity that they need when they need. You will have an impact on almost everything in their supply chain, except at the moment where Nestle mixes the beans to make the chocolate. There, you have no influence, unless you are tasting the chocolate, which can be. But in terms of packaging, you don't have any influence. But as of the packaging development, you can help them by doing some proofing. As of the market test, you can deliver them a very short run, blue, yellow, green, whatever the version, to try and make sure that the right product will be on the shelf. And then in terms of delivery through the channels, you could really put on the market, they could put on the market what is really needed, what the forecast looks like, and not just in case. Up to the point where at the end, there is a massive saving into the waste when they decide to stop the product, because they had only what was needed at the time it was needed. So this almost disappears. So you can have a massive impact on the cost saving in their supply chain. That's what these arrows are pointing at. Make sense? Let's go one step further. You save money to them, and this you can quantify when you talk to them, not to the purchasing manager. Purchasing manager has no clue about this usually, right? His job is to squeeze your margins, and usually he does it right. Yes? Terrible, but he's paid for that, so he does a good job. Now, you need to talk to more people, the guys who are involved in this, the marketing guy, the product manager, the supply chain, the logistic manager. You know, all of these guys that can be your partners behind the purchasing manager. Don't get me wrong, the order will still go through the purchasing manager. But if you have more partners behind, you will turn to be a preferred partner in the industry just because you help them to save this amount of money. How much? I don't know, and I don't care. It depends on the product. But clearly, you can have a big impact on their cost. Partnership. Now, not only you can save cost, but you can also add value. What I said earlier about the different versions, this is also what is happening here. You don't produce now a generic product that everybody will buy. You create different versions to a point that you have the leather shoes done to a person eventually, a single person. Why not? So you are adding value through the possibility of fragmenting and proposing to the market different versions. That's also a business help. Now, I would like to ask, I'll do it again. I would like to ask a volunteer. Do you mind? You have orders, right? Oh, you want to be the volunteer? No. You are the volunteer then. And I give you a pen, which happens to be from me. Look, oh, you have one? Fantastic. I'll ask this guy to help me. He did it this morning, so he knows the story already. I'll ask him to write a word of 5 letters. C-O-S-T-S. Right. What did you write?
Cost.
Yeah, I know. You don't need to read. So he wrote cost. So this guy is in charge of the supply chain of this company, of this fictive company. And as he sees it here, he can have an impact by calling you for help to contribute by delivering on demand what he wants and so on. By doing so, he saved 50% of the costs. Big thing. Unlikely to happen, otherwise he would have been doing a lousy job before. Unlikely to happen, but still. So I ask you then to divide this in 2 and save 50% of the cost. There we are. These guys saved 50% of the cost of the supply chain. That's what you can do with your customers. The question is, do you think you can do it a second time? If you manage to reduce their costs here, which are quantifiable, If you reduce them by 50%, do you think you could do it a second time by another 50%? I doubt. A big hit like this, the next contribution will be maybe 1%, 2%, I mean, a little bit maybe, here and there. But a massive one will happen only once, which is fine because you can quantify it and already you become a partner for this customer because you help him saving a lot. So clearly you have to realize that there is a limit to the cost reduction, but you can quantify it. Where there is no limit is in the added value that you can bring through the products. And there it's up to your marketing people working with their marketing people to develop products that people want and are willing to pay more for. Like the personalized shoes that I showed you earlier. So this will only happen if you have a communication with more people than the purchasing manager at your customers. Fair enough? Or should I start again? Right. That's it? You have enough? Or I have another 2 hours, no? Or an hour and a half now. Okay. So to illustrate it, I think this is that's a study that was done by CapV at the time, which is now Infotrends. And the iceberg scale is probably what illustrates the best. And indeed, statistically, this is true, which means for $1 of print-related cost, they have between 6 to 8, brand owners, have between $6 to $8 behind the wall. So when these guys are coming to you saying, give me another 5% discount on your invoice, that's the one that they see. You can say, no, but I'll save you 10% of your other costs. And if you have an open discussion, my math are quite simple. 10% of this versus 10% of that, I know where to shoot. But that's assuming you have an open discussion. So this was done based on surveys at many brand owners, so the ratio is quite right. So think about it. It makes a lot of sense. And you can maintain your margins, by the way. Now let me illustrate what I said with a few examples. You see this lady? She's picking up a bottle of wine. Now I understood this morning that to choose a wine here, it doesn't happen like the rest of Europe, especially because of him. But anyway, if you have to pick up a bottle of wine on a wall full of bottles, like here, how do you do? What do you do when you have to pick up a bottle of wine for tonight? What do you do?
Look at the label, look at the price.
Look at the label, look at the price. Sounds good.
Color.
Color of what?
Wine. Better wine.
Okay, that's that's the color of the bottle. Yeah. Could be, fine. So that's your personal decision. It's already filtering out 50% of the shelf. Fine, you prefer white, you go for white, you will buy white. All right, but I'm with you. The thing, to my opinion, it's useless to look at this part of the bottle. It will not help you to make a decision. What will help you to make a decision is more the label. And I guess that we are all influenced by the label. It may well be that if you don't like the appearance of the label, for you the wine is not good. It's perception. Actually, it's wrong, but it's just a perception. But this lady took this bottle probably because from a distance the label grabbed her attention and her hand grabbed the bottle. Which means that there is already the first aspect was the visual appearance and the first step was done. Now, since we're influenced by this, I would like to show you one thing. It explains, I mean, it justifies the fact that the appearance counts. Look at this one. If I ask you which one would you prefer, who would say, I prefer the right one? Who prefers the right one? Okay, who prefers the left one? Who doesn't care? No, you answered left. To me, the fact that we have split answers shows that indeed the look and feel, I mean the look of these labels influenced you. You didn't take the time, and maybe you cannot, to read the text. It is exactly the same wine, same year, same everything. Just the label is different, the graphics on the label is different. So the first time I saw this, I wanted to call a winery because I found it wrong. The same product inside and two different graphics is a confusion for the consumer. The consumer doesn't recognize the image of the brand. That's wrong, my opinion. Until I realized, by coincidence, that if I swap the labels, then I found the designer bright. Actually, there were 3 bottles. And you see the continuity of the design. The design was great. Imagine this poor lady when she has to make a selection with this wall of bottles. She has to look at a surface like this to have her attention grabbed. With these three labels side to side, assuming they are in the right order, I agree, suddenly her eye will be attracted by a surface like this. On a wall of bottles, believe me, this will have a big impact. She will go directly to this. And now be fair with me. If you see this, isn't it fun? Isn't it great? How many bottles do you buy?
2.
3.
I got a 6 there. I was expecting a 3, which is fair enough. I got a 6 there. Exactly. So it means that it does the job. And indeed it does the job. So the aesthetic, the look of the design is appealing. So it works. Now let's go to another drink. Are you into whiskeys here? Yeah? So if you're like me, a whiskey for me has a certain novelty, and you know, you have to be in a bar with a certain ambiance, atmosphere, and so. Would you buy a whiskey like this? Are you sure? You don't feel like, but I can tell you that when I saw this, I thought it was crazy. And next to this were the normal ones with the typical standard bottle that we all know. And I decided to have a look regularly in the supermarket, and I found out that these bottles were the ones disappearing the fastest. So people were interested in this. And you know, it was something surprising, something out of norm, and they went for it. Now, be fair, inside the bottle, it's the same whiskey. So in theory, you know, you can still have the atmosphere and so. Just that on the supermarket shelf, and imagine the bottles of whiskey, which usually are quite nice and luxurious and so, you have these kind of funny things. You know, obviously, what do you see first? This, obviously. You know what? This was 2 years ago. Last year, that's what came up. Real product. And same story. I went again, and there also, I saw how this was moving. It's unbelievable, but it works. So clearly, if marketing guys can, again, let me just turn this into your business. This means number of labels, number of bottles, whatever, divided by 6. Fragmentation for the same product. So everything goes in this direction. Marketeers are pushing for this, so you can expect more and more. Now, another example, which is a bit more standard, I would say, not so fancy, is about Marks & Spencer. There is a range of product called the Floral Collection. It's the 4th time that they changed the design. 4th time in, I can't remember how many years, 2 or 3 years. They tripled the order volume since they keep on changing, refreshing the appearance of the products. So you can be sure that if marketing people measure that, they will jump on you and say, oh, now I want this, but in 2 months I want another one. Fair enough. The ones who used to order 10 million labels for the whole year, now they will come to you maybe with the 10 million labels at the end of the year, but fragmented in many, many, many sub-orders. Another one is L'Oreal. L'Oreal had an agreement with Walt Disney to use the Disney characters. And the story that happened was great in a way that they put this on sleeves, which means again that the shampoo inside is the same, but they put it on sleeves. And obviously they supported the whole campaign, as Bo was showing, with some videos, some ads here and there, like the Heineken thing that you saw earlier. Similar. So obviously the kids were targets for this campaign, and they could see on the video, on Facebook, on TV, whatever, they could see a certain character. And when they go with mom in the supermarket on Saturday, what happens is that obviously the mom goes and does the shopping, and she passes in front of this. And obviously the kid jumps out of the shopping cart and says, Mom, Mom, I saw it, I want it, I want it. So 2 things can happen. 1, clack, shut up. Good. Second, okay, the product lands in the shopping cart. But L'Oreal being clever, a month later, they slightly changed the campaign, and it's another character which is on the shelf. But it's the same mom and the same kid in the shopping cart. So bottom line, a second shampoo will land in the shopping cart. It doesn't mean that they wash their hair twice as much. Cannot happen. So somebody lost. Who lost? Their competitor. Because this shampoo will be used anyway, will be consumed. But this has been against their competitor. They won. And what it means? Same product inside, just a look and feel outside was more attractive and more fragmented. So you can expect more to come. Tissue paper, Kleenex. For me, a tissue paper is clearly the most disposable thing that you can think of. Usually, I don't know about you, but usually you use it once and you throw it away. Yes? Okay, we were the same. Why would you like to collect them? But it works. So you can upload photos. Usually it's photos of kids, because apparently they are heavy consumers of these things. So photos of kids, and you can personalize this and have it in your bathroom, because it makes a lot of sense, a lot of interest, and it's fun and so on. I have to tell you, I do not understand what happened with this wedding photo there. Whether it's a mistake or not, I don't know, but somebody apparently has to cry. I mean, okay, whatever. Personal interpretation, I don't know what to think about it. Anyway, so it shows that it could be from, even for such a low value product, a marketing guy can turn it to something interesting and attractive. Bottom line for you, more fragmentation, and again, more orders, even though at the end of the year it may be the same quantity of labels or packs or whatever it is. So think about it. You need to be ready with this trend going towards more and more jobs to come. You will need to manage this volume of jobs. Now, again, a bit more serious, we can be proud to say that we manufacture our machines in an energy efficient way. We do have for instance, our ink plant, which is completely powered by solar panels in Israel. So on the machine lines also I can't remember the name of the certification, but we are energy efficient. So that if you use an HP Indigo, that's something you can tell your customers, means the brand owners, that we do. The fact that you use an HP Indigo machine, you are part of this reusable and recyclable consumable, but you have also the fact that you don't have any cliché or cylinders and you reduce your waste. Just the usage of a press allows you to say, hey, I'm a bit greener than I was before. Great. Promote it. It's very important for the brand owners. Talk about this. But the impact, the massive impact for me is that this is at the brand owners, at your customer's place. You can help them to reduce this part big time. Remember my diagram there about the supply chain. Big time. So are we green? Well, we contribute big time to the green. And I'm not talking about cyan and yellow mixed. Right? It's green environment. So, one thing I have to tell you is that these words were coming from me, but this is coming from some brands, like here, you can read the name. What triggers my attention on this one is that the green message, which each consumer can read, is as big as the brand name. See here, there, there, there. Which means that these brands want people, consumers, to see that they contribute to the environment. In other words, you guys need to tell them what you do for them. It may not be part of your mentality, I understand. It may not be part of your history, and I understand, but times are changing. You have to tell them, you have to show them that you care. You have to show them you go with them in their direction. Another word, buzzword, is sustainability. I used to trigger a bit the attention of the audience by asking them, it's you. Any of you can define for me what sustainability means? Right? I take this for a no. We all know what it means, right? We have an idea. But the reality is that put some words in front of it. You will have a hard time. There is not one sustainability, actually. And you will see why. I went on the internet and I tried to find a definition of sustainability. What I ended up having is that it's a long-term action towards well-being for human beings, having an impact in economical, social, and environmental aspects. So there are three aspects that sustainability is concerned by or for. And here they are. The point is that they interact each other. So when I tried to illustrate this in a graphic, I had a hard time just with these three words. So I said, okay, let's add some definition. And I added some definition on each and every one of these aspects. So obviously, whatever relates to the environment, you reduce the energy, you reduce the waste, you recycle, all this makes sense. When you're talking about the cost, obviously you try to optimize your growth, you reduce your cost. Fine. All this you can understand. But since there are some overlaps here and there, maybe there is a slightly different definition at the overlaps. And indeed there are. So I added a few more just to illustrate the point. So what came out of this, I mean, you can add some more based on your profile and your own environment. You can. But all of this will probably look very similar. The beauty of this is that actually, if you want to be sustainable, you have to be there in the middle. In other words, comply with all that. No chance. My opinion, no chance. So to be sustainable, if you really want to be, it means that you need to cover all of these aspects, and we just can't. But all of us, all of you, you are contributing to some aspects. For sure you are. So to be sustainable as such is not really a magic thing to be part of, but clearly to go in the direction of this makes a lot of sense. If you translate all what I told you about digital printing, what you can do with your customers towards sustainability, you will end up in a conclusion that digital printing is contributing to many of them. So actually, digital printing is quite a good solution as well for sustainability. Not only it's green would be only the environmental aspect, but the rest as well is partially covered. It's not a magic solution, don't get me wrong, but it's partially covered. And that's something that you should tell your customers. If they promote themselves as being, yeah, we have a sustainable plan in place for the future, tell them as a supplier that you help them, you contribute, and they will love you. Conclusion for this, quite simple. Your customers definitely need your services of digital printing. They do. Starting at the place where they design. Help them to design. Allow them to do a little test, a proof, on one material, with one color, one version, whatever. Help them to test the market. Help them to reduce their cost in the supply chain. So definitely, you do have a lot of aspects which have value to your customer that you need to talk to them about. At the end, by the way, they still need printing. And as far as I know, you are printed, so you're safe. So when I say that you can do it today, indeed you can do that. As far as I know, most of you are in the label industry, but labels is not it. It can be that your customers have also products which are in tubes or in boxes, in containers, in flexible packaging, whatever. And guess what? They have also the need for service, marketing, positioning, and so for the other products. Why digital printing is not helping today in these fields? Essentially because the difference between printing a label that will be sticked onto a container versus folding carton is that in folding carton you print a container. So you needed a wider surface to print. That's why, for the ones who came at Drupa, you saw that we launched 2 new machines, a roll-fed machine and its sheet-fed equivalent for 2 specific markets, being flexible packaging and folding carton. This machine is a B2 format, sheet-fed, essentially for folding carton. The one I showed you earlier, here this is roll-fed, is a 30 inches or 75 centimeters wide web. So clearly that's more for volume production of sleeves or flexible packaging. Labels you could eventually, if you have the volume, it may be an option. But initially we developed towards flexible packaging. So flexible packaging, folding carton in large format to continue the trend that labels started several years ago. So finally, why do you need digital printing? Well, basically this you know. Because you want to be efficient inside. That's the whole idea. Digital printing cannot do everything, for sure, but clearly there is a trend going in the direction of what digital printing can do. You offer services to your customer, not only just print images. And the bottom line, again, is that you need it as well for printing. So that's in common with the brand owners, with your customers. So if I summarize the two, today there is no way back. We are not going back to the Stone Age. Digital is there to last. So digital is, in our world, we are in it, whatever, and digital printing as well. You need to maintain your knowledge and your innovation into new technologies. That's the only way you have to differentiate yourself from competition and to position you as a preferred partner to the brand owners. The biggest challenge is here. The innovations are valued by everybody, including your customers, for sure. But if they are known, so if you don't make the effort to go behind the purchasing manager, not to bypass, but to talk to other people behind the purchasing manager at your customers, you will lose a big part of what you could offer to this customer. So my word for you would be, try to get some partners inside your customer. Try to avoid to talk only to the purchasing manager. That way you can really enjoy and use digital printing to its biggest benefit. And with this, I think I made it in shorter than 2 hours, which clearly shows that I have to thank you. if you have any questions,
Thank you, Christian.
go for that.